Eunice Mutua, and I've also nominated Mr. Mbuvi Musimi, who was nominated by Mwingi Okas Association, and I've also nominated Dr. John Kyalomuthuka, who was nominated by Chulungwa Professional Association, or in short, CHUPA. So those are my nominees. And apart from the CCM or responsible for urban development, the other members of the board, apart from these other ones, after they are successfully vetted by the county assembly, the others are the CEO responsible for urban development and the manager of Mwingi Municipality, the municipal manager, who will be an ex-officio member and secretary to the municipality. Ex-officio meaning you will be attending the meetings, you will be taking the minutes, but if there is a matter which requires voting, he doesn't vote. He has no voting rights. But if the others, the CCM, the CEO, the three members who are identified competitively, whom I've nominated for vetting, and the four members who are nominated by various associations, of other associations I've talked about, also I've nominated them for vetting, and we hope the county assembly will vet them, and when they are vetted successfully, then the county assembly will forward the names to me, then I will gazette them. I will first of all appoint them and gazette them. That is a procedure, same procedure I followed with the chief officers. You gazette and appoint, because it's a requirement that the governor gazettes in the Kenya Gazette any important decision he or she makes. So I will also gazette them after they are successfully vetted. I forwarded those names, I think, I signed them on Wednesday, but they were forwarded on on Thursday. So we can't say the county assembly is delayed. We'll give them reasonable time, although I'm told they have gone for recess. You probably know better, and myself why, because they came on Tuesday and they have gone for recess again. Then the other thing, I ask you to come so that I can brief you, because you are the ones who represent members of the public, is a reassignment of county chief officers' responsibilities. And in exercise of the powers conferred under Section 45(5) of the County Governments Act, I, Julius Makau Malombe, the Governor of Kitui County, have reassigned the following chief officers with the new responsibilities as follows. Chief Officer Mr. Michael Mutisia Kali is reassigned from the Department of Lands and Housing, where he is currently, or was, because again the gazettement took place on Friday last week, and it was supposed to take effect immediately. So already he has shifted to trade industry, MSMEs, that is micro, small and medium enterprises, and county EIZs. EIZ stands for Economic and Investment Zones in the Ministry of Trade, Industry, MSMEs, Innovations and Cooperatives. Chief Officer Gladys Mami Kivoto is reassigned from the Department of Irrigation, to the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries in the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. Chief Officer Nelly Kabuo Mutesia is reassigned from the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries to the Department of Culture, Gender and Social Services in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Youth, ICT, Sports and Social Services. Chief Officer Stephen Makau Musili is reassigned from the Department of Trade, Industry, MSMEs and the County EIZ, where he was previously, to where he is now, effective Friday, Lands and Housing in the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. And finally, Chief Officer Bretta Mwangangi is reassigned from the Department of Culture, Gender and Social Services, where she was previously, to the Department of Irrigation in the Ministry of Water and Irrigations. And as I have indicated, the Gazette notice, which was published on Friday last week, indicated those changes took place immediately. Also, an internal memo addressed to all the ministers and all the chief officers was sent to them, all the ministers and all the chief officers, by the county secretary to advise them on the same. That also happened on Friday. And the same was copied to the governor and also the County Public Service Board chair, because the County Public Service Board is an employer, but when it comes to reassignments or deployments, they are not necessarily involved. But it's always good to inform them of the changes which have been made. Then the other matter I wanted to brief you is a topical matter in the Kenyan public discourse and space about the proposal to create more county, to establish more counties, and also to create additional constituencies. And with respect to the creation of extra counties, my position is I am in full support of the creation of Mwingi County from the existing Kitui County. Some of you may know, or if you did not know this, because we deal with facts here. Mwingi district was established in 1994. And the 47 counties which comprise the county level of government in this country were the districts which were in existence in 1992 and which were created through the Districts and Provinces Act of 1992. Mwingi was created or established in 1994. So when the parliamentarians and the committee of experts decided only those districts which were in existence in 1992 and were created through the Districts and Provinces Act shall become counties, Mwingi missed out in the process. But Mwingi, as a kind of population which compares very favorably with the other counties in existence today. For example, the entire Mwingi is slightly over 350,000 inhabitants, and when I say Mwingi, I mean Mwingi North in terms of constituencies, Mwingi West and Mwingi Central. That is their population. And these are 2019 census figures. And it compares very well with Lamu. For example, Lamu County has a population of 143,920. Mwingi North and Mwingi Central, both each has more than 143. Samburu has 310, that is Samburu County. Tharaka Nithi 393, slightly above Mwingi. So Mwingi, the way it is, without subtracting or adding a sublocation from elsewhere, merits to be given a county. And me, I'm supporting them to be given a county without causing mayhem by trying to shift sublocations from other places. I've gone around this country, and one of the things I was being told by people is, let Mwingi County be given the way it is without shifting any constituency or any location or any sublocation from one place to another, because they have the population, they have the area, and they qualify in every sense. And as we all know, you don't do that which people don't support. Then Mwingi also, when you look at what we call the population quota is the total population of a country divided by the number of constituencies. Then you get a number there, plus or minus 30% or 40%, depending whether it's urban areas or it's densely or not densely populated. You get some number, and given the population they have, Mwingi can also benefit from having an additional, at least an additional one constituency. So when time comes, we will also be asking for that. And then Kitui can also benefit with an additional 2 constituencies. So Mwingi is an additional, at least an additional 1 constituency. Kitui, at least an additional 2 constituencies. So that's what, from my standpoint, we'll be pushing for going forward, and I will join hands with whomever else who is pushing what I've just talked about when the right time comes. Finally, you may have heard from people who are very fond of recording things in social media, claiming there is a lady who was killed through negligence of the staff of Mwingi Level 4 Hospital. As we speak now, the minister and the CEOs for the County Ministry of Health and Sanitation, they are in Mwingi to witness the autopsy of post-mortem of a lady who unfortunately passed on when she was brought to Mwingi Level 4 Hospital. Last week, there was an arrangement for Johansen Oduo, the government pathologist, to carry out a post-mortem, but through some politics, that didn't happen because we understand the family say they are ready, but then some politicians will say, oh, this can't happen. And then Dr. Oduo could not do that. And today they have sent another pathologist because he cannot be available until Wednesday. And we think we can't wait until Wednesday. So he has sent another senior medic to carry out the autopsy so that we can know the truth. And until we are advised by people who are trained as medical officers, they are the only ones who can tell us this happened because of this. And we don't want to engage in ile siasa ya pesa nane, because as you all know, people sometimes do pass on in hospitals. And over the last 5 years, if you look how many people have passed on at Mwingi level 4, there are quite a number. And some of those politicians never said anything. Never said anything then. And even when sometimes I think in 2021, 2022, some lady passed on there, which they've been using. They didn't say anything. We don't know whether it's because somebody whom they have referred to as their relative was in charge. And these other people you want to demonize are not your relatives. We do not know whether that is what is informing this. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to extend our condolences to the family, which lost one of their own. And as I said, we will wait the results of the post-mortem so that we can know precisely what happened. So that when we are talking from a position of knowledge, not rumor mongering. So those are the 4 things which I wanted to brief you on, and I will pause for any question or clarification which you may have. Article 89 of the Constitution is the one which provides for additional constituencies. And there is a process. Each of these, there is a process. The process for constituencies is there should be a public participation process conducted by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, and after going around and listening to views of people, then they will make proposals for additional constituencies or the merging of constituencies or whatever else they can make proposals to. And those proposals are supposed to go to the National Assembly and to the Senate for approval. So that is a process which will take place. We all know the IEBC is not fully constituted because the commissioners are not there. There are only 3 commissioners who remained after the others exited because of one reason or another after the general election. And the term of Chebukati and 2 others ended. And since then, no new commissioners have been recruited. So that process of creating additional constituencies must await, because that is a constitution, the supreme law of the country, which says the IEBC must be involved. Then the one for counties, it provides for, once again, a public participation process where a commission or a body is constituted and which is approved by Parliament. And when the word Parliament is used, it means both the National Assembly and the Senate. They must both approve the team which will be constituted to go and gather Kenyans' views on the establishment of additional counties or merging of counties, because that has also been suggested. Those of you who read the newspapers of the weekend, Senator Kalwale, the senator for Kakamega, he said we don't need additional counties. If anything, they should be merged to 10. You read in newspapers say that. Former Governor Kakamega, Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, also said, no, Kenya does not need additional counties. They should be merged to 14. The 47 you merge to 14. Kalwale from 47 to 10. So don't think that getting extra, it will be a tall order. That one, we should wait for that space. But all the same, a commission should, a team, not a commission, a team, either task force or something, but which is approved by both houses of parliament, that is National Assembly and County Assembly, should be put together, and then they go around asking for Kenyans' views. And then as they correct those views, they should take into account the following: population density and demographic trends, physical and human infrastructure, historical and cultural ties, the cost of administration. Like Alwale and Oparanya, they say the cost is too high. We can't afford as a country to have additional. The ones who are pushing for additional, they are saying they are marginalized, and there are historical or cultural reasons why that should be done. Then the views of the communities affected. That's the reason why public participation will be carried out. And then the objects of devolution of government and the geographical features. Those will be taken into account, and they are all under Article 188 of the Constitution. So you go and read them for yourself. And after that task force or that group finishes their report, then that report must be submitted to both houses of parliament, and the proposals, either collectively or in part, must be passed by 2/3 of the members of the National Assembly or 2/3 of the members of the Senate. You also agree that can be a tall order, because whenever anything has gone to the Senate or National Assembly and it requires 2/3 of the members, it has not been easy to get them through. But let's hope for the best with respect to Mwingi County. Nitasimama hapo ili ikiwa mna maswali muulize. Asanteni. And anything you want to ask, even if it is not part of the things I've read, because I don't interface with you every other day. Maybe you have something else which is more pressing, not the things I've talked about.
Right track. That is according to my assessment. And I want to thank you for what we are seeing as media. I'm talking about as a media person in Kitui. I've seen what you are doing. I've seen what your county government is doing. And I can attest that you are in the right track. Maybe my clarification from your side is maybe you have done 4 changes in your government. What are the underlying causes of these changes you have made?
That's a good question. The underlying reasons is improved service delivery. We want to improve service. If you find the way you have structured your government, service delivery is not being delivered as effectively and efficiently as you would desire, the right thing to do is to rearrange. President Ruto did that even earlier than me. You all know the changes he made. For example, Jonathan Mweke used to be in sports. He was moved from there to livestock. Dr. Kimtai, who used to be in livestock, he was moved to medical services. And actually the CEO or the principal secretary who was in medical services, a lady called Buru, she was actually dropped. And then Mr. Toom, who used to be, is engineer actually, Engineer Toom, who used to be in medical services. He was moved to be in sports. And there's a lady, she even came here, called Jerry, who used to be in correctional services, Ukokwa prison. She was moved to be the principal secretary in charge of public health. So even myself, I've looked at the way things are working, and I say they can work better if I reorganize my government the way I've reorganized. So by implication, it means when I observed what was happening, I could see we were not going to maximize service provision to our people if we leave people organized the way they were organized. Thank you. And I believe the way they are, they will. If we watch and it is not working, we'll take action, even dropping people. Even dropping people. If we find you are a problem, you can't work with others and you are not delivering, and there are too many complaints about you, we will also drop you if need be. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. My name is Jackson Muli. I work with Mosi FM. My question is a bit different from your presser today. It's about water rationing in Kitui town. And as a chair of SECEB, several months ago, you confirmed here the 3 governors of Kambane, and you agree that there are some resources that you have to share, like water. Does it mean that Machakos County, the water uptake in Masinga has increased so that Kitui can face this situation? Thank you.
That's also a good question. And the answer is Kitui is not receiving less, and Machakos is not receiving more water than they were receiving before. So water is coming to Kitui just the way it was coming before. It's only because the demand has increased, and also the elements of non-revenue water, that is loss of water after it gets to the pipes. It doesn't end up to the customers, and that's an aspect we are addressing with the Kituasco. But to increase the amount of water which is pumped from Masinga Dam, we requested the president when we were at Syokimau, when he was launching the affordable housing project there. Some of you has requested him. And when he sent the PS, the principal secretary for water and sanitation is called Dr. Kiprono Rono. Alikuja na tulikuwa in this very room. He also indicated they are going to enhance the intake point at Masinga so that we pump more water. Now we rely on one intake point, but we can have 2 intakes, and some 200 million Kenya shillings has already been allocated to Tanandi Water Services Board to ensure they improve the intake. And once they pump the water, it will come to the treatment plant, and they will be responsible to Tanandi for pumping. It comes to the treatment plant, and after treating, there will be a meter of water going to Masinga, and they will be given water equivalent to what they were getting before. I mean, going to Machakos side, Masinga, Kalakala, and other places. And the other meter is for water which will come here. So that Kitui pays for the water they are receiving, and Machakos pays for the water they are receiving. Currently, Kitui, we are subsidizing the pumping of water, particularly the electricity cost, to the tune of about 8 million per month. That's what we are. If we don't, there will be no water, because they can't, from the revenues they collect, be able to pay the electricity charges. Same thing we are doing for Kimuasco. Actually, in Mwingi there was a crisis, and I think they are going to finalize the payments today. because that matter was brought to my attention on Friday, and they are doing everything to ensure the electricity bill for Kenya Power is paid by the county, because again, the water company Kimuasco is not generating enough money. To enhance water supply for Kitui, we have the Umar Dam, which has been allocated 250 million Kenya shillings, the first since it is stored. And courtesy of the President, courtesy of the PS having come here, and you remember we walked with him to Umar Dam, and he saw for himself the situation there. So they have allocated 250 million, and they will be identifying a conductor. Most of you must have seen an advert by NEMA for environmental impact assessment for Umar Dam. That does not happen when a project is not about to be given out. So we expect the water to increase. Of course, we want management and corporate governance at Kituasco also to improve. We are going to have a new board soon. We are going to recruit a new managing director, and we will reorganize, restructure the place so that management can improve, because some of the things are as a result of bad corporate governance and management, and we will take action as necessary. Thank you. And then for Mwingi, the Kiambere Mwingi water project, which is to be financed by the Italians, phase 2. When we were at Tharaka, Uko Siambiu, when the president was there, we talked about it and he answered positively. So the Italians are being engaged by the national government, because they are a national government project, for that to be done. Also for Mwingi and Migwani also, there is the Kindaruma, Kiomo, Mwingi and the Migwani water project, which will be a pipeline. So I'm following those because I'm the governor of this county, and whenever and wherever it's necessary, I will always engage the national government leadership for aspects which can only be effectively addressed because the amounts involved are big for the county. I request the national government to do that kind of work. Thank you. Yes?
Thank you, His Excellency, sir. My name is Brian Peter. I report for Kitui newspaper. I'm going to kindly ask you a question with all due respect regarding to your response to the Senate Committee on the County Public Investment and Special Funds. I'll ask a few questions if you allow me. The first one is in reference to the 241, approximately 241 outstanding receivables by Kituasco. I don't know what steps so far have been taken on that, because during your response at the committee sitting, you had promised to provide a progressive report based on the collectible of that receivables. The second question I'm going to ask you kindly is on the transfer of ownership on the shares. Kitui County Government had been funding Kituasco, but it was not the bona fide shareholder. You had promised to rectify that by, if I'm not wrong, September, and I guess we are in September. And the third question that I have for you, His Excellency, sir, is based on the numerous reports of corruption in Kituasco. We have heard incidences that have been reported even by members of the press here, including Kituasco trading with the sister company in Masinga over something like, was it chlorine or something? So what's the progress so far, and how have the culprits been dealt with? Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know. Is CCM or CEO Water here? They are not here because we did not anticipate that, but you're correct. We appeared before the Senate committee responsible for public investment, and those are some of the issues which had been flagged by the Auditor General, and which they asked us, and later on they advised we look at them on receivables. In other words, the money which should be collected by the company that is Kitui Water and Sewerage Company Limited. As I said, they are supposed to carry out investigations on why they lose water. Because if you look at the water which is pumped at Masinga and which enters the pipe which is supposed to come to Kitui, they lose a very high percentage of the water is lost in between, and it is not seen in terms of revenue collected, water supplied and paid for and revenue collected. And they are supposed to really come up with a cabinet paper, that is the minister is supposed to come up with a cabinet paper, having worked with the Kituasco management, which is there. We have our acting CEO, our former chief officer finance, who when we seconded her to Kimuasco, really the revenue collections there improved substantially, Madam June. So they are working together to bring a paper to the cabinet on that particular aspect. Number two, and you know, that fact of the receivables not being as they should be, it's also connected to your third question of corruption. Maybe some people are connected and they don't pay, and they pay something small to people who may be in Kituasco. Investigations are there, and the actual culprits will be brought to book at the right time by the investigative agencies. And as a result, the revenue doesn't end up with Kituasco. So that is being looked at by the investigative agencies. You know them, the ones which are there, actually they are seized on the matter. And that is one of the recommendations from that Senate committee, that they looked at it. And we don't want to condemn anybody and add. You know, we have a principle in law. You presume people innocent until proven guilty. Don't condemn or judge somebody and you are not a judge. Let the evidence be collected. Let whoever is suspected of engaging in corruption be brought to book, and then the facts laid out, and then I can tell you the law will take its full course. So people should not say sack so and so, sack so and so, sack so and so. Imagine you are the one there and you are being condemned and nabbed. And we have seen in this country where people have been actually even been accused of killing people and they have not killed, and later on evidence shows something else. So, but where there is smoke, there is probably fire somewhere. Then number two, you talked about ownership of Kituasco, and you said when you were in Senate, they said we don't own Kituasco yet. We've been giving them this subsidy. The subsidy I talked about, 8 to 10 million sometimes. I remember even sometimes it was 11 million. And when I was there, I said, whoever said we don't own Kituasco is not correct. Kituasco was owned by the then Kitui County Council. And all the assets and liabilities which vested with the local authorities with respect to water companies, those who are transferred to the county governments when the county governments came into effect in 2013. And initially, actually the Ministry of Water was the one which was paying this money, this 80 to 10 million, initially, because I was governor here. But at some point they stopped paying. And we had the option of doing two things. We don't pay and we have no water in Kitui. And you imagine the consequences of having water in Kitui, like in hospital and other places. Or we subsidize, but we get the company to pull up its socks and to be able to break even. It was not breaking even as we took it before, because the national government, through taxpayers' money, not that national government has money from somewhere, they tax us and they were using it to pay. And we were also using the money which we allocated to the people of Kitui also to ensure we subsidize water. So Kituasco, at no time did it belong to somebody private. Ownership of a company could be by shares or could be by what? By guarantee. You can own by guarantee or by shares. What they were talking about is ownership by shares. And the process of ensuring, after we constitute the board, because there are 3 offices which should be the shareholders. There should be shareholding by the ministry, by the CEO responsible for water, CEO responsible for finance, and I think the other one is account secretary? Yes. The other one is account secretary. So after we finish that, the board must resolve. You know, that shareholding cannot pass on unless a new board resolves in a resolution which will be sent to the registrar of companies. The registrar of companies cannot do it on the basis of a resolution which is not by the new board. Okay? Because the new board is being reconstituted. Actually, applications have been made by people who want to be in the board and so forth and so on by a team which was put together. As soon as the board is constituted, one of their first businesses will be to make resolutions so that we can transfer ownership by guarantee to ownership by shares. And what is called CRV 12 is changed so that the names reflected there are by those officers, not them, because they don't own it. They will be owning for and on behalf of the people of Kitui. Okay? So that will be done. And they gave a timeline. I think the timeline is not over yet. And it was not Kitui alone. Virtually all the water and sewage companies in all the 47 counties are in the same position, because most inherited these companies from former local authorities. So that's what we are doing. But we have always owned Kituasco by guarantee. Okay? But not by shares. But they want by shares because WASREB, the Water Regulatory Services Authority, issued guidelines, I think sometimes 2021, that ownership henceforth should be through shares. When we came, that had not been done. We were called to the Senate before it was done, but we are going to do it. Thank you. Anything else? You are free to ask any question, even if it is not on the things I talked about. Okay, asanteni sana for coming. God bless you. Na tuendelee kufanyia watu wetu kazi. Na thank you for reporting tulipokuwa huko Eldoret. Na Daily Nation, and that was a day before the devolution conference kicked off. When it came to assessment of booths, how the booths were, how the documentation there, how the things which were being displayed there interpreted the theme correctly. 10 years of devolution. We were adjudged as number 2 out of 47 counties and number 2 out of 223 booths. Na muliripoti vizuri, tutaendelea namna hiyo. And as I said when we were downstairs, when you hear somebody say, hata tukija namba 1 tutafaidika na namna gani? Tutafaidika na vitu vingi sana. Donors who every week, sometimes we call you, sometimes you don't, but I think maybe our people do share some of the things which they come across whenever they come calling here. They go places after they do their own assessment, and some of the things which are taken into account is a governance of a county. And the governance of a county includes some of these things for which we are ranked 4. Okay? So that helps the county a lot, because miradi kama huu ambao tumelaunch, ukija utasaidia watu wetu. Miradi ya maji kama hule tulikuwa tunaongea hapa last week, na ilikuwa kule hoteli kwa Mama Safi last week. That's how we benefit, and many others. So tutakuwa in that space, and to the extent possible, publicize this as much as possible. Finally I drew a parallel. Ni kama mtu kuuliza timu ya Kenya ama ile ya Spain ikishinda mpira, Spain inafaidika namna gani? Ama mkimbiaji wetu kama Faith Kipyegon ama Mary Moraa akishinda gold medal, tunafaidika kama Wakenya namna gani? Kuna watu wetu watapata kazi Mombasa ama Masai Mara ama Nairobi, kule kuna mahoteli nyingi, ama hapa kwetu tukiendelea mbele, because tunatengeneza tourism circuit. Na hiyo inatokana kwa Faith Kipyegon kuja namba 1, na mtu ambaye anataka kusafiri anasema nataka kwenda kuona where Faith Kipyegon anatoka kutoka. That's how decisions are made. Don't think they are made in a big science laboratory. No. Those are the things. That's marketing Kenya. So when we are number 1 and we are put in the newspapers, people, including development partners, take note. And tutafaidika. Asanteni sana. Okay, thank you.